What's going on, everyone? It's Sam. Welcome back to the channel. Multiverse of Madness is going to be a huge event within the MCU, and I think we all know that, but there's also a ton of unknowns still. There's a lot of talks about who the main villain is. Is it Wanda? Is it the Illuminati? Is it somebody else? So today I want to discuss the importance of the Eye of Agamotto and exactly how this might tie into the plot for Doctor Strange 2. We'll be diving into the nexus where chaos magic comes from, the settings or locations within the movie, and a lot more, so drop a like if you enjoy. And other than that, let's get into the video. Let's go. A lot of you may be wondering why Doctor Strange even still has the eye, because it was an object that held the time stone, and of course he hasn't had that since Infinity War. But we have to remember that the eye Strange used was a fake from battling Thanos, so it was never actually destroyed. And after all this time he still wears it, meaning there is a likely reason Strange had decided to keep it all this time. And now we'll end up seeing if the destiny or fate of that decision will play into the plot of Multiverse of Madness. In the comics, the Eye of Agamotto is a really powerful device. It actually derives from the All-Seeing Eye, and when Steve Ditko originally designed it, his inspiration came from the All-Seeing Eye Buddhism phrase, which among Buddhists is known as the Amulet of Snail Martyrs. Now, that name doesn't really matter, but you should know that the symbolic meaning is to protect its wearer against all evils. The All-Seeing Eye could be a reference to the Illuminati as in the real-world version, being that it's essentially the branding logo for the group, but also a play on the team in the movie. There's likely a tie-in that the Eye of Agamotto could be the all-seeing eye of the multiverse, which I'll explain throughout this video and why it's so important to the plot. The eye is known for being able to track these corporeal or higher-powered beings in the multiverse through their very own magical emissions. It helps Strange see through illusions in the comics and even weakens a ton of these interdimensional entities. Now, why this is so important is because in Multiverse of Madness, I believe that Wanda is a pawn in the movie and her intentions will not necessarily align with her motives. We know that she will be a villain in the movie, but at what cost? And the cost is that there is likely a higher power, or should I say darker and lower power, residing within her own chaos magic. Chaos magic is a form of dark magic. It's what resides within the Darkhold, otherwise known as the Book of the Damned. The book was created by Cthon, or Chthon, however you want to pronounce it, but he is the god of chaos and one of the most powerful dark magic users. In the MCU, I'm unsure if it'll be exactly Chthon who shows up, since they love to do amalgamations of characters to combine different powers and stories, and we do see a monster-looking being on the official poster that represents a form of Chthon very closely. Looking at toy leaks, and aside from the known Gargantos appearance and other beings appearing in the movie, out of the main figures shown, there's only one true evil-looking being depicted, and he has a similar-looking facial structure to the being that we see on the poster with the teeth. The only difference here is that because it's a toy leak, they toned it down slightly for kids, which if you've ever seen the other figures at times, there are always some small differences within movies. In the comics, Despair was actually a demon who was created by the Dweller in Darkness, who we saw in the third act of the Shang-Chi movie. In the MCU, he was kind of depicted as a hellish dragon, essentially the opposite and evil version of the Great Protector. I'm actually working on an Elder Gods video explaining all of that more in depth, so subscribe to the channel to keep up to date with all my Doctor Strange news. But in general, Despair's goal is to cause fear and chaos within his enemy using illusions and hallucinations. Way back before Sam Raimi had joined on and the movie was in development, the original director Scott Derrickson actually spoke about wanting to use Nightmare in the sequel movie, a being who I originally thought was going to be the big bad of WandaVision. Of course, Scott ended up leaving the project due to a multitude of reasons, but I am willing to bet that Despair in a way might have taken Nightmare's original spot. Both characters are similar in terms of how you could depict nightmare and fear-causing villains in live action, and in the opening scene of the official trailer, we hear Doctor Strange say,
"Every night, I dream the same dream. And then, the nightmare begins."
This could be Despair literally putting fear into Stephen Strange and inching him closer into attempting new spells like we see here using the Darkhold. It could all be a game of manipulation. I'll bring this up later in the video, but a lot of these beings like Nightmare, like Despair, and even Khonshu, who we're about to see in Moon Knight, are trapped in these other dimensions. And so the way they live on and attract power is through people or energy in dimensions like where Earth exists. Now back to Wanda, and as we saw her in WandaVision, we are left with a clip of Wanda reading the Darkhold, a very powerful and corrupt book within the Marvel Universe. Essentially, she's given a sign to wander into the multiverse and find her children, throwing her into complete despair, which is what WandaVision was entirely about. Grief of losing everything that she ever wanted. So being lured by Chthon or Despair, whoever is the villain would force her or guide her in an attempt to find her children. But we all know that there's more to it, and this villain would want power in the end. So like I said, it's likely that this entity is trapped within dark dimensions of the multiverse or within the Darkhold itself, and Wanda could be the pawn to releasing this. Now back to the main purpose of this video, the Eye of Agamotto. It can also transport beings and other things, and this is why I believe that American Chavez holds onto it before they travel to another universe in conjunction with her powers. Using these powers, Strange may end up using this to find the deity that is imposing their will onto Wanda. However, and spoiler warning before I continue, there is a leak suggesting that Wanda will be chasing Strange and Chavez at one point in the movie. And it looks like we may have received a glimpse of that in this shot here as they travel from one universe to another. Now, American Chavez has the ability to punch these star-like projections, breaking the walls between universes, which then she can use to travel between these alternate dimensions. But so can the Eye of Agamotto to an extent, and it seems like it's an important tool to open the door here to what we believe will be the place similar to Utopia, or what I believe is the actual nexus of all realities in the comics. Cthon, Despair, and other beings of this regard have been trapped in this nexus of all realities before in the comics, which is why I believe that we will see Defender Strange and the Crimson Bands of Cyttorak monster trapped in there as well. And fun fact, Cyttorak is actually the entity that Strange pulls this ability from in Infinity War. We do see Variant Christine Palmer here, which could indicate that this takes place somewhere in the Hall of the Illuminati, and with the Illuminati having access to the Nexus, it could be how they keep the universe at balance within their group. There have been a ton of Nexus Easter eggs lately, but none more prevalent than the commercial in WandaVision hinting to us that Wanda is a Nexus being, which is really just the name for an extremely powerful and rare entity in the multiverse. It's said that these beings can affect probability, like what was explained in episode 8 of WandaVision, and alter the universal flow of time and overall stability. This is why Wanda is such an integral part of the MCU now moving forward. So back to what I was saying, it's likely that Chavez has the ability to enhance or unlock the true ability of the Eye, because as we have seen so far in the MCU, Stephen Strange has only used it to hold the Time Stone, which would have no purpose now moving forward. We also haven't seen Strange open or activate the necklace at all, meaning that the actual Eye could be unlocked during this movie. So I believe that Wanda is actually in search of the Eye of Agamotto as well, and not just America Chavez, and being that the Agamotto emerged from another elder goddess, and is in general looked at as a light of hope that shines within the Eye, she would want it to travel to other universes to find her kids using that transporting mechanism. But the real villain behind it all, whoever it may be, would want the Agamotto so it could free itself from this trapped dimension and use it to enter Earth's dimension or elsewhere. Whatever ends up happening will of course be madness. It will have long-lasting effects on the multiverse and the MCU in general, and I'm starting to wonder if this actually all leads up to some sort of clashing event with a group of Elder Gods, but you'll have to wait to find out more about that. Either way, I'm really excited to see how this plays out. I know there's been very few people really talking about this topic or villains in the movie aside from Wanda in general, so consider this my extended theory on it, the AMG way. And let it be known too that I don't read any plot leaks whatsoever, so these are literally just all my theories. Let me know your thoughts though on this in the comments below, and drop all your Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness theories. Follow me on Twitter at AnotherMarvelG, and if you like Marvel, the MCU, comics, and everything in between, subscribe to the channel and drop a like. Other than that, I just want to say thank you. I'm another Marvel guy, and I'll catch y'all in a blip.